We tend to think of history as, well, history, something that's set in stone, a story that's already done. But what if I told you that's not quite right? What if history is something we're always building, always shaping? Today, we're going to dig into two totally different stories that prove exactly that.
All right, so for our first story, let's head over to Plymouth, Massachusetts. You've probably heard of it, America's hometown. This is a place where history isn't just in a museum, it's literally baked into the streets, built up slowly, layer by layer, over 400 long years.
Now, to really get a handle on a place like Plymouth, we need to talk about something called town public space. And look, this isn't just a fancy term for parks or sidewalks. Think of it more like the physical container for a town's entire memory. It's the streets, the squares, all the buildings that frame them. It's where the town's story and its meaning actually live.
So, America's hometown, a profile in time. Let's take a little walk through it, shall we? What's so cool about Plymouth is that its character isn't just in the old buildings. Nope, it's in the land itself. You feel it in the steep climb of Leyden Street, or the way Coles Hill looks out over the harbor. I mean, those features are just as much a part of the story as any statue or plaque.
Plymouth's history is all about layers. You've got, of course, the founding in 1620 by the Mayflower Pilgrims. Then it becomes the capital of the whole Plymouth colony. And as you walk around, the architecture tells this story, from the 17th century all the way to the 20th. And get this, it's even home to the Pilgrim Hall Museum, which is the oldest continuously operating museum in the entire U.S. This is history built brick by brick, generation by generation. The real deal.
The challenge of history, preservation versus progress. So this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But here's the thing. What happens when a town is so tied to its past? Well, it finds itself in a constant tug of war between preserving that history and just, surviving in the modern world.
And believe me, that struggle is real. We're not just talking theory here. The town's own reports talk about some serious challenges: vacant storefronts, signs of decay. They're losing out to suburban shopping centers. Even key places like the courthouse have packed up and moved. And tourism? It's growing, but not by much. It's tough to get people to stay overnight. Bottom line, keeping a 400-year-old story alive is a massive undertaking with some pretty big economic hurdles.
So when you look at a map of Plymouth today, what you're really seeing is a story drawn over centuries. It's a perfect example of how we usually think history gets made, right? Slowly, methodically, over a long, long time.
But what if history isn't built over 400 years? What if it doesn't unfold slowly at all? What if it just arrives in one single shattering instant? December 21st, 1988, 31,000 feet over Lockerbie, Scotland, a bomb goes off. Pan Am Flight 103, on its way from London to New York, had been in the air for less than 40 minutes when a bomb hidden inside a radio cassette player just detonated. When history explodes, the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103. So yeah, this is the other way history gets made, not by construction, but by explosion. The blast killed every single person on board, that's 259 people, and another 11 people on the ground in the little town of Lockerbie. Just like that, in a flash, a brand new and absolutely tragic history was born.
And the sheer scale of this was just unprecedented at the time. Listen to this quote. Until 9/11, it was one of the world's most lethal acts of air terrorism and one of the largest and most complex acts of international terrorism ever investigated by the FBI. So think about that. The challenge here wasn't preserving a history that already existed. It was about building a new one, literally, from the wreckage.
The world's largest crime scene, a global investigation. So, where do you even begin? How do you piece together what happened? Well, you start by facing what was, at the time, the world's largest crime scene.
Okay, just try to wrap your head around these numbers. The debris field covered 845 square miles. They had to collect 319 tons of wreckage. Investigators conducted over 10,000 interviews across 16 different countries. This wasn't just a crime scene. It was a massive global puzzle, and the pieces were scattered literally everywhere.
And this is where it gets incredible. They rebuilt this history piece by tiny piece. It started with one tiny fragment of a circuit board. They traced that to a radio cassette player. Then they found another fragment, this one embedded in a piece of a shirt, and they identified that as part of the timer for the explosive. And step by step, this forensic trail led them to charge 2 Libyan intelligence operatives. It's just amazing.
Legacies in stone and action. 2 ways to remember.
Okay, so let's pull back. We have these two completely different histories, right? One was built over centuries, and it left behind a physical town. The other was born in a single instant, and it left behind a blueprint for a global investigation. So how do we remember them? What are their legacies?
And the comparison here is just fascinating. On the one hand, you have Plymouth's legacy. It's physical. It's things you can touch. Plymouth Rock, statues, museums. It's part of our national identity, the whole first Thanksgiving story. But then you look at Pan Am 103's legacy. It's not made of stone, it's made of procedures and people. It created the model for how the FBI now investigates international terrorism. The compassion of the people of Lockerbie, that actually led to the creation of the FBI's Victim Services Division. And the families of the victims are still pushing for justice. So while Plymouth's heritage is built, Pan Am's is an ongoing action, one that even led to Libya formally accepting responsibility. One legacy is in stone, the other is in action. It's a powerful contrast.
How we choose to remember, the architecture of memory. So what does this all mean? When you put these two stories side by side, they show us something really profound about what history actually is. It's not just a dusty old record of stuff that happened. It's an active process. It's something we build. It's like we're all architects of memory.
Because history isn't just what happened. It is what we choose to carry forward. And that's really the key, isn't it? Whether you're carefully maintaining a 400-year-old town or meticulously reassembling a crime scene from microscopic fragments, the result is the same. You're making a choice about what to preserve, what to investigate, and what to learn from.
And maybe that's the one thing that ties these two totally different stories together. There's this old proverb, and it actually comes from the Plymouth planning documents. It goes, "A society grows great when its people grow trees whose shade they shall never sit in." And that just says it all, doesn't it? Building history, whether it takes centuries or starts in the wake of a tragedy, is really about creating a legacy. It's about planting a tree for people you'll never meet. So the real question for all of us is, what trees are we choosing to plant right now?